the integumentary system. We will begin talking about this organ system with a survey of the skin. As a bit of background, integument is an unfamiliar word. It means covering. This is appropriate because the integumentary system is the most superficial. Its structures are easily visible and cover all the other structures of the body. Thus, it's quite familiar. We have seen our own integumentary system, observed others. We spend a lot of time, effort, money in caring for and perhaps altering our integumentary system to express ourselves. So anything from moisturizing to taking a shower to our haircuts and dyeing our hair, doing our nails, tattoos and piercings. These are all ways that we can use the integumentary system to communicate to others what kind of people we're like. So again, we're pretty familiar with its components. Also, because it's easily visible, it can be used as a diagnostic aid. We can use it to assess other organ systems and the overall condition of the body without any invasive techniques. We can just look and tell what's going on the inside. The components are the skin, this is the major organ, plus hair, nails, and glands. Here we see an image of a lot of the components. We see the different layers of the skin, we see glands, and then also the hair and hair follicle. The major function of the integumentary system is protection. We spoke already about the stratified squamous epithelium that can be found here. And if you remember from the tissues chapter, this tissue is great at protection and forming a barrier. So the skin will protect the internal body from everything outside of it that could cause a problem. So that's dehydration or water loss, keeping water in, as well as keeping microbes, viruses, toxins out, protecting against UV light, excessive heat or cold, and abrasion. So keeping everything that needs to be inside, keeping all the harmful things outside. Related is sensation. The skin is full of nerve endings that give us all sorts of information, from thermal sensations like hot and cold to different types of touch, light pressure, deep pressure, itch, tickle, and most importantly, pain, as pain conveys tissue damage and allows us to protect the body. So it's the integumentary system that allows that influx of information about our external environment, allows us to protect ourselves and to feel all those wonderful sensations like sunlight and a hug. The integumentary system also is a major step in vitamin D production. This is an essential vitamin that the body can't create on its own otherwise. The UV light that we're exposed to from sunlight begins the process by stimulating a molecule that we can then convert into vitamin D. The integumentary system is also integral in temperature regulation or homeostasis of the body when we get both too hot and too cold. It can alter blood flow in order to either shed or conserve heat, and then a very familiar reaction to excess heat is sweating. So these sweat glands in the integumentary system are activated by heat, and they will work to cool us down. And we'll talk about both these, vitamin D production and temperature regulation, more later on. Finally, this is a minor function, excretion. So this is elimination of waste products. If you recall to our brief survey of organ systems in Chapter 1, the major excretory organ system is the urinary system. It's the kidneys that get rid of the bulk of waste. However, when we create sweat, a small trace amount of waste products like urea or excess ions can be lost through it. So, first, let's address the skin. The skin is an extremely large organ. Altogether, it weighs more or less 10 pounds. It's about 2 meters squared, or about 2 yards. There are two major distinct regions, the epidermis versus the dermis. And these are great to examine right after we look at tissues, because we'll see that the tissues found in each of these layers gives them their functional properties. The epidermis, made out of epithelial tissue, again, stratified squamous, is going to be a barrier against water loss and also from forming a protective layer against abrasion, microbes, etc. Underneath, the dermis is a structural component, so it gives skin its support and structure. The hypodermis is not technically part of the skin. It connects the skin to underlying structures. It's also known as the subcutaneous layer, but when we refer to it as the hypodermis, we can see these prefixes that indicate where the layers are found. And these are prefixes we see in other terms in biology and anatomy. Epi means above, like the epigastric area was above the umbilical area. Epidermis is the top layer of the skin. And then hypo, like hypotonic, was lower solute content. This means low or below. So this is the layer found below the dermis. This is our general diagram of the skin with that stratified squamous epithelium up here. The epidermis is very homogeneous, meaning that it is composed of just one type of tissue throughout. And then below that we have the dermis, which is much thicker, and it has a lot more going on in that we see the nerves, the vessels, and then other components like sweat glands, oil glands, the hair follicles as a part of the dermis. Zooming into the epidermis, we can see these layers that make up the epithelial tissue here. And we'll talk about this here in a second, but the process by which the epidermis is produced creates these distinct layers or strata. From the bottom here, this is the basal layer with the stratum basal, forms just one cell layer of cuboidal columnar cells that are very active, dividing to form the more superficial layers. So, as cells divide here, older cells are pushed up into the stratum spinosum. Here the cells are still living, still somewhat can be dividing, but they're slowing down a bit. Stratum granulosum is about 3 to 5 cell layers thick that forms the dividing line between living cells below it and dead cells above it. So here the cells start to fill up with granules of a protein called keratin, and they start to flatten out. The stratum lucidum we'll sometimes see. It's a part of some skin, but not found in others, which we'll talk about more in lab. These are quite squamous cells, 4 to 6 layers, completely full of keratin. So they're just a reinforcing layer. And then the stratum corneum, this is the most superficial, completely squashed squamous cells with lipids found in between. That forms an additional reinforcement of that barrier. The cells overlap like scales. And as you get to the surface, the desmosomes that hold the cells together break down, and cells are continually being lost up here, sloughed off. It's normal. It's a part of everyday skin maintenance. As these cells are lost, they're being replaced by cells in the lower layers. So this is a brief overview of the skin. Our next component here is going to look at these individual layers in more detail.